Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today's project is a Penn reel. This is early 2000s. This is the Penn Captiva. This is the CV4000. These reels were the predecessor to the Penn Fierce and Penn Pursuit lines. These were made around the 2000s. You can see it has a nice metal handle. And I think these generally get a bad reputation because, well, what it was a groundbreaker. These were one of the first reels that were made by Penn when Penn shifted their production to China right around 2005. And I think people have always said, it's not the same, just primarily because of that reason. Well, we're going to take this reel apart. We're going to show you how to service it. If you have one of these, you'll learn how to do it yourself. That's pretty much the idea behind Second Chance Tackle is, well, knowledge transfer. It's showing you how to do it so that you can service your own reels and keep them fishing for a long time to come. And I try to do that. And, well, take notes along the way. Use the video as a reference, and perhaps you'll gain the confidence. Hopefully you'll gain the confidence to keep your reels fishing. And if one's broken, give it a second chance. Well, if you like these types of videos, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. I cover all kinds of fishing reels and service and repair. And this is just one example. It's an intermediate level fishing reel. It's a spin fisher. It can be used in lakes, piers, boat, and the like, even casting in some back bays and inlets on the saltwater side. It is a smaller capacity. You can see we don't have a lot of capacity on the spool, and also on weight. It says only 165 yards of 12-pound test, so it's not going to stand up to some of the bigger game that's in the ocean, but it is a good intermediate reel to use. One of the things you're going to notice is we have two ball bearings up top here, and well, we're going to leave them on the shaft. If they come off, we'll know where they came from. We're going to open this up by taking off the screws, and as I do that, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. If you like what we're doing here, if you like to watch and learn about fishing reels, all kinds, whether it's ocean or back bay or freshwater or ponds, whether it's involving big trolling reels or small rear drag bait casters, whatever, I'll try to cover all of them. And what you're essentially doing is you're essentially looking over my shoulder in my shop at the reels that come in for service. So it's not unusual to get a wide variety of reels, and well, that helps augment your education and learn about the reels, their manufacturers, their purposes, and the like. Well, these have 4 side plate screws on them, and I take them out and I put them on the desk to make sure that they're all the same size before I go any further. If one of them was shorter, one of them longer maybe one of them had a thicker stem, I want to note what position that came out of. Okay, well, right in the middle of this video you heard the phone ring, and I had to answer that. But that's a good reminder to tell you to take pictures along the way. You never know when something's going to happen where you're going to have to set the reel down, and then you're not going to remember, well, where were you? So I've been taking pictures on the video camera, and I can't tell you where we were. I think we were going to remove the side plate, so I will apologize to you. I may have mentioned that the bump guard is missing on this one. Screw is in place. You could get a replacement if needed. Okay, we're going to remove this. We'll show you the interior side. Now, the fellow that dropped these reels off, Harold, told me these reels have not been serviced in quite some time. I think he's actually had an issue with one of the bales being sticky, but well, we'll try to resolve that. Internally, it's very interesting because this has the same look as the Penn Pursuit and the Penn Fierce. This one is a graphite or a plastic case. It's not a metal case. It has an architecture that's very similar to the later models of the Penn lineup. Okay, this one has a screw that's partially out here. That should be tight, but it's not. I wonder if that's causing any issues here. This is the tie-down screw for your crosswind block and axle. Kind of makes me think that maybe it's the wrong screw. I don't know. I'm going to put that one down. It wouldn't be that one. All right, when you remove that screw from your crosswind block, you can remove the axle shaft. And when you're servicing a reel, you're basically doing a couple of things. The first is that you're examining all the pieces and parts, making sure that they're all in good condition. For example, when you would take the main gear out here, which has got a bearing that's stuck on it. And we'll do it this way. You want to make sure that all of the teeth are uniform and they're not chipped or cracked. If you find a situation where they're chipped or cracked, you're going to need to go back in and order a replacement part. Now that usually shows up, a chipped or cracked tooth usually shows up when you're pre-testing the reel before you service it. In this case, we didn't find any unevenness or skips or the like that would indicate that that's the issue. Okay, the second thing you want to do when you're doing your service is what we're doing right here. You're just cleaning off the pieces and parts. You're making sure that the old greases and oils are removed because they get contaminated. Things get in there, dirt, grease, and the like. They dry out, and well, that slows the reel down, or in some cases causes the reel to not perform well at all. Now this is an example of something that happens when a reel gets over tightened. Trying to see if I can't get that out. There we go. All right, the reel got over tightened and that plastic carrier that was on the handle screw got stuck in there, and you couldn't remove that bearing from the main gear as a result. All right, these are shielded bearings. As you'll notice, I wipe them off on my towel here. I don't want to transfer the dirts and oils and the like to my bench. But we will oil that bearing, set that aside, and let that seep in. We also want to remove the rotor. And I'm getting a lot of pieces and parts laying on my desk right now, so I think after we take that tie down screw and put that in the bench, we're going to take the oscillation gear, the oscillation slide or crosswind block, the bearing, and the main gear, put them all into that parts tray for safekeeping. In this case, I believe we should be able to reach over that lip and remove this rotor nut, and notice that the rotor nut is coming off the way it would traditionally go on. It is a clockwise removal. That goes into my parts tray. We can pull up and out on the rotor. And in this case, we have an interesting little design here. At one point, I believe you probably had an override system here for that instant anti-reverse, because we have a spring and a pole, but we do not have the adjuster to override this. So I suspect what they've done here is used an older part setup, transferred that to this one, and just tied it off in a permanent lock position. We're going to remove that now by taking out the 3 collar screws. And this is a good place to take a picture because you can't necessarily be sure what's underneath here. Now you can go and pull a schematic for this reel if you like. That schematic will show you the diagram in an exploded view of what the pieces and parts are underneath. And if you find yourself in that situation, you may want to work with that. Okay, this should release the top bearing and the lower assembly. Now there's a spring here. I want to work that spring off so I don't shoot that. And we should be able to pull up and out on the assembly. Here's your assembly. That's a good place to take a picture. I'm going to just lay that down. I'm going to clean the inside case and clean the case in here as well. removing all that old dirt and grease and the like. This one's particularly interesting because it's got all kinds of formed grooves and slots and the like in here, none of which does anything. It probably does something to strengthen the case itself, but as far as holding grease, it gives you a little nook and cranny for all of that, doesn't it? Alright, clean that case. I'm going to take that bearing right now, put that bearing back in here before I forget about that. And let's see what we got here. This is always interesting. Remember, you got that little spring. Don't lose that. Have a little collar, a top bearing, and a set. I'm going to try and keep that together. A collar, and then we have the open bearings here. So this is going right back on. If you start losing those open bearings, you're going to have quite an issue trying to put it back together again. So apologize to the purists there. I'm going to keep that assembly together. Going to wipe off and check the teeth on the back side of this, and then re-grease on that pinion gear. Yeah, some of these early attempts at the anti-reverse are curious, to say the least, and a lot of them led to I call them explosive situations, if you will. I'm going to just reseat this now before I get too much further down the line. I wanted to make sure that I was all the way down. This is our little tie-down mechanism. We have the bearing, and then we have a clamp that grabs these. I'm still paying attention to that little spring. I just fear that that spring is going to shoot. Okay, I stopped for a moment to remove that spring. I just don't want to take any more chances. Next up then, we'll put that collar on and the bearing. Can't recall if I've oiled that bearing, so let's go ahead and do that. That's a shielded bearing as well. You can see all of that on here now. And then make sure you're nice and flush before you reinstall these screws. That's going to hold the assembly down. Just want to put that spring just keeps wanting to go lose itself. Okay. And 2 of these left. And then we'll deal with that little spring there. Always fun. Okay, that's the top end service. A little shim washer goes on top of the bearing and underneath the rotor. And now we need that little spring back. There is an open end to that spring. It's going to hook on. So I got picked up a hitchhiker here. First goes into that hole in the carrier. Then I use a little pick to work the wider side. over the post and then pull down. So we should have our instant anti-reverse now. We do. And we can take that top end now, the rotor. It's clean underneath. A little bit of grease laying there. You can flood this little trip lever here. It's just a metal stud that comes down, and then the ramp will push it up. This bail's got a little bit of play in it. There's nothing we can do here. It is one of these bails that twists off when you remove this side. And I guess over time it's just worn. We can go ahead and oil that line guide. All right, let's put this back on. The more parts you can get off your desk once you start working this, the better off you are. Remember, this is a reverse thread. So to put it on, it's almost like you're trying to take it off, going in a counterclockwise manner. And then we're reaching over with that open end wrench to tighten this down. Once you've done that, give it a spin. Make sure it's spinning nice and free and easy, which it is. Okay, there's a tie-down screw that was associated with that, so let's take that tie-down screw, put that in as well. That will keep that nut from spinning free when the reel is rotating. Okay, I'm not sure if we've oiled the side plate bearing. We've checked these. You check a bearing by holding the center of the bearing and rotating. Also going to oil the two bearings that are on the stack here. All right, time for reassembly then. I'm going to take the oscillation gear. We've checked the teeth on that. The gear gets grease on three sides, all sides if you will. That one, here, and the face. Then it can seat onto the stud in the case. Next up then would be the crosswind block. That only needs grease in that slot and on the back side. Nothing else touches mechanically. Seat that over the stud on your crosswind block and keep that in the low position. It's easier once you install your main gear to align that axle shaft and tie it down with that holdfast screw. This main gear can go in next. And then our axle shaft, just a light coating of grease on the axle shaft. Look for the flat side on that. That flat side is going to face you as you go to install it. It's going to work down through the pinion gear, and then it's going to merge with your crosswind block. Once you've merged it with the crosswind block, use a pick or something to make sure that the screw hole in the axle shaft and in the reel align. And we can use the tie-down screw to hold that in place. Again, you're going to need a micro driver for this. This one was loose. I don't know how it got loose, but it's tight now. Okay, there's a shim washer on your main gear. You can wipe up any excess that's there. We've oiled the bearing, so we can go ahead and place that back on. Make sure all of your seams are nice and tight and crisp when you go for that reinstall. Since all screws are the same size, doesn't matter where they go. I like to go in a cross pattern when I have 4 or more screws. Alternate it, that will keep equal tension on the side plate, so you don't have to worry about binding, causing any kind of internal stresses with the operation of the reel. Well, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel in particular, maybe you're working on one and you're stuck, maybe you just want to know a little bit more about how and where the reels were made or what makes the reels different, then if you leave those in the comment section, I'll try to answer that. For example, this is a good example here. You had the Captiva and you had the Saugus, which essentially are the same reels. One of them has a metal jacket, the other one has got a graphite case. Okay, let's put the handle back on. Handle screw on this side. This is where that got over tightened and pushed that piece into the main gear. This collar needs to rotate. Kind of odd how that just kind of slipped off, but it did. There we go. I was looking to make sure that we merged that stud into the case itself. All right, looks like I left one of those screws a little short too, so let's tighten up the handle. Let's come over here and tighten that screw down. I don't know why that was left short, but I left it short. Let's put it back in all the way. Okay, nice tight seam on the reel. And let's just go service the top end of this, which is the drag washers. And I'm not sure, I'm thinking we probably have felt drag washers in this one. Not sure. I should know. I fished the larger version of this reel. But let's just go see what we have here. I'm using a pick to get those pieces out. Yeah, we have a flexible washer. So the flexible washer should be lubricated. We'll do that now. The first thing we're doing is cleaning out the inner case. We have a 6 drag washer system here. So we have 3 of the felt washers, or whatever composite that is. We have 2 that have a rectangular center. We have 1 that has a round center with points. The metals alternate. The drag washers, well, you start with the drag washer. I'm going to put oil on these. First of the keyed washers, the round one with the rectangular center. That pointed one goes on the inside middle of the stack. That's called an eared washer. There's your last of the drag washers, oiled. And then this retention clip goes in the groove. So that's the service of your drag stack. All right. Okay, let's give it a final wind then. Well, it turns nice and free and easy. And this is what you would expect in a Penn reel. It's been serviced, cleaned, everything's been checked. And well, we've been able to restore this one, give it a second chance. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. To our first responders, our police, fire, rescue, everybody involved in keeping us safe, thank you for everything it is that you do. To everyone, please stay safe, stay well, stay watching, keep your tackle maintained. It won't give you problems on the water, and it'll help you catch a lot more fish. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.